Hey, thanks for joining us on the Voice of San Diego podcast. I'm Scott Lewis, the editor-in-chief of Voice, and I'm joined, of course, with my friend and assistant editor, Voice of San Diego's Andrew Keats.
What's up, buddy?
And managing editor, Sarah Libby.
Hello.
How are you guys? And she is the author of How to Set Yourself on Fire. She's the web editor at Home and Garden Magazine, but most importantly, probably the most she's probably the biggest pride of her life right now is her regular weekly contribution to Voice of San Diego, the Culture Report. She is Julia Dixon Evans. Julia, welcome.
Thank you. It's true. It's the pride of my life.
Really?
Right now.
My children ask me, who do you love the most? I say the Culture Report.
Julia, thanks. I understand we might not be more important than your kids, but I hope we're right below, maybe somewhere nearby. I have to admit, I haven't read your book yet. It's one of the 12 sitting on my shelf, ready for me.
Right, it's waiting.
But I don't ever read, apparently, anymore. That whole part of my life is over.
You just listen to podcasts.
I can't read while I'm walking the dog, Sarah.
I just don't. I don't know when you fit it in.
The podcast?
Yeah.
When
It
I'm
doesn't
walking
fit into
the dog,
my life except when I record it in this studio.
when I walk the dog and when I drive, anywhere I drive, that's when I listen to podcasts. So you don't do any of those things?
I walk the dog with my husband and baby, so that wouldn't facilitate that.
Oh, so do you have special bonding time?
It's just like
you don't put headphones in?
I don't walk him during the week.
What do you do with your dog that's so important while you're walking?
Yeah, it doesn't work out for me.
Yeah. Okay. We take it. Don't listeners,
Thanks for
stick
coming
with
here,
podcasts.
though. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Julia, tell us about the book, How to Set Yourself on Fire. It's fiction, right?
It is fiction.
You did a tour and everything.
I did, and it was piecemeal where I would go on several little legs of a tour over the summer, and it recently has ended, which has been really existentially difficult.
Why?
To be oh, it's over. That's it.
But
I'm not a famous author yet. That didn't happen. And it's over. So.
Yeah. Well, you're pretty famous to me.
Oh, thanks, Scott.
and you went to places where you had book signings and everything, right?
That's true. It was pretty great. And I think that you really have to put the work in. You have to do the legwork to get out there. Every time I would go and do a reading and maybe there's only 15, 20 people in the room, it's still more people who had heard of me now.
Yeah.
More people who were interested in the book. And that's just kind of a balance you have to make.
Right.
Can I handle another sort of one empty room, almost empty room where I feel oh my God, why am I doing this? And yeah, it does pay off. So.
Yeah. Well, and so being an author is not easy. Mm-hmm. It's everybody thinks you're just going to score or you just need one hit and it's going to work out. Even the hits don't make a lot of money sometimes, right? It's you gotta.
You can't make any money as
right.
a writer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Keep your dreams alive, children.
English majors listening, it's a lot to look forward to for you.
Right.
You could always transition to journalism where the real money is.
Yeah, that's where it's making it rain around here.
A lot of options. We have a great show today. We're going to do our New Year's resolutions for the city of San Diego and the region, and maybe for ourselves. I don't really have any. Do you have New Year's Eve plans? My friends wanted to go out this New Year's Eve, to an actual hotel or something, and I was I'm not going to do that because that would be really hard.
So I had a pretty memorable New Year's Eve last year,
right.
which is that I went into labor around 10 p.m. on December 31st. And
you were timing it for that 12:01.
Well, so
right?
my husband was reluctant to go to the hospital, and I kept being we need to go. I need the drugs. And he was no, you're supposed to wait. You're supposed to wait. And the only thing that convinced him was the idea that it would soon be around midnight in Hillcrest, which is where the hospital was. And he was okay, well, I'm not going to drive my wife in labor to the hospital as all these drunk people are getting out on the road. And so we made it to the hospital.
That seems like it should be one of the fewer priorities, like your comfort and
You
things
would
like
think.
that. Should be.
Like the traffic is going to be a bear if we wait 2 hours.
I think that's just like a good distillation of my husband in a nutshell.
Wait, I got no reason to laugh here. I have my
That's
own
true,
horror
yeah.
story.
I know.
Yeah.
How far apart your contractions, whatever. I'm looking at Waze, and it's going to be very congested in 2 hours.
What are your plans? You're gonna go to a lacrosse match?
No, I'm going to go to New York City, see Fish at Madison Square Garden for 3 days. It's going to be great.
How many shows?
They're going to play for all 3 days straight.
Yeah, I'm missing
right?
one song. Yeah, it's gonna be one set.
That's good. I'm missing the first night of the 4-night run. Unfortunately, I only catch 3.
Do you
it'll
hang
have
out
to
with
be
the
enough.
same group? Like,
Yes.
do you no, I mean not just your buddies, but like nearby people who travel as well to these shows.
Where there's like a lot of people that you see that we like.
Yeah.
You see along the way all the time. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. Gavin, we'll probably bump into Gavin at some point around Madison Square
Yeah,
Garden.
tell me about Gavin.
Met him in a bar in Miami about
did he
6
switch
years
to-
ago. And,
Did he switch to vaping yet? Or
That was good. Everybody's good today. Good job, guys. He just always is around. I always happen to see him at the show.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
Do you like Fish, Julia?
No, I don't.
Do you travel for any bands?
You know, I have. When I was in college, I think I drove for a Ben Harper show, which is like a step up.
Down. Down. Decidedly. It's okay. I like Ben Harper, okay? You guys know Dorian Hargrove, reporter?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got a Ben Harper tattoo.
Whoa.
Wow,
Really?
that's
It's
commitment.
devotion.
That's not really. That's not true. But he's got,
All right.
Voice of San
he has
Diego reports.
he has a Lenny Kravitz tattoo.
One of the things
Way better.
He doesn't have a Lenny Kravitz tattoo.
I would love that.
It's a
if
Jack
he had,
Johnson tattoo.
One of the things that Julie did for the culture report that we ended up pulling out for its own story was this look at solo shows, solo museum shows. There had been a LA Times piece about LA and how in LA museums they had somehow pulled off twice as many solo shows that were featuring women as men. So she decided to look here, and not quite the same outcome of the study. What was that? What'd you find?
No, it was not the same. First of all, I had a difficult time figuring out where to draw the boundaries. What's a museum? And I kind of knew that would be the response to this. It was like, well, you didn't include us, or look at all the women we featured. So I looked at the San Diego Museum Council and took what they considered a visual arts and design museum. And looking just in Balboa Park, it's pretty poor.
Really?
There, and even let's say we expand out to the metropolitan area, so the city, it's half the women to the men in solo shows. And this is
So
also
to be clear, we're not saying half of the shows are women and half are men. There are
No,
half
no,
as
no.
many
Half
women
as many
featured.
Twice
women
as many
featured.
men.
20
It
as
was like
many men.
6 to 12 men, 6 women to 12 men. So that's including San Diego Museum of Art, MOPA, the Timken, which actually had one solo show and it was a woman. And they don't often do solo shows either. And they don't often feature living artists. So that is really exciting. I just checked all those boxes. And
Kudos to the Timken then.
kudos to the Timken.
Okay.
And it's also free all the time. There you go. And San Diego Art Institute had 2 women to 1 man. So some places are trying.
So what was the worst one?
San Diego Museum of Art.
Oh, right.
It's not like terrible. It was 1 to 5. Okay, I guess that sounds
not
terrible.
That's pretty
Great.
rough. Yeah.
That's not great.
It certainly means you're just not thinking about it.
Yeah, that's probably a good point. And they saw some remarkable solo shows this year, and it's probably just like the way the timing shook out. But then we headed up to North County and it got better. Like looking at places that are maybe smaller or younger institutions, they're the ones really stepping it up. Like the Oceanside Museum of Art and Lux Art Gallery in, I think they're in Encinitas or area. Yeah. Oceanside Museum of Art had 5 solo shows helmed by women. And I reached out to them yesterday asking them if that was
So priority is
a priority. Yeah. And they're like, oh, actually, we had one more. You miscounted. So it's 6. They had a Day of the Dead altar that they considered a solo show as well. So, but they had, what was it? They had 4 men. So they had like a volume of solo shows.
So,
but still more women.
So do you think that so what's your theory about why North County seems to be doing better than the metro area?
I don't have a theory. Maybe they're just trying.
Yeah.
Maybe there's something about being outside of Balboa Park, being outside of the standard expectations, that they're feeling a little more free to do what they want, or maybe it's just like a more progressive. I wish I knew.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you can check that out at voiceofsandiego.org. That's we've got a lot of content this week for you, including that. And Julia's been just doing a great job on the Culture Report. I know that Sarah's happy. What do you like about her writing?
I'm somebody who, like I mentioned, I had a kid this year. I don't get out a lot, and I think the Culture Report could be a place where it just feels like completely foreign to me and doesn't appeal to me at all as somebody who doesn't get out. And instead it like makes me excited about the city, and it's just like really accessible and cool. And I love the things that she's able to pull out and highlight.
But if you don't follow her on Twitter as well, she is funny.
Oh my God.
I think you're one of
it's the best day of my life.
I think you've got to be one of the funniest writers on in San Diego right now. So I'm very excited about having you here. All right, let's transition. We are going to do resolutions for the city. I asked everybody to come up with 2. So this time I will randomly decide who starts, and I'm going to decide that should be you, Andy Keats. What is your first resolution for this region?
Let me first say that I had an incredibly difficult time with this exercise.
Me too.
It was a really hard time. I feel like we snark on the region so much in this on this show here that it seems like I'll be giving up something no matter what I resolve to do here.
Wow.
It's going to be a real shot. I can't think of a productive way to go about this.
Are you okay? Did you figure anything out?
Well,
do you want to just stop and say I'm not creative enough to do this?
No.
Yeah. So my first resolution is I'm going to choose to be optimistic that the city is really building a network of functional bike lanes throughout downtown San Diego. I'm gonna choose to just close my eyes and lean forward and do a trust fall into the waiting arms of Mayor Kevin Faulkner that they really are doing what they say, and they're just going to build these bike lanes. And that's
so
that.
This is a resolution for you.
Yeah.
To trust the city to do something.
To not
what does that
snark about
involve?
delays and costs. And
that involves you you're going to keep the snark at bay.
Yeah, because I'm going to just believe that this is actually taking place.
So your resolution is to not say mean things. For how long?
Resolutions usually last like a couple weeks, right?
Yeah, I would say probably until the very first sign of delay.
Okay.
Kind.
But that's
great.
The moment it's hard. The moment it's hard is when you'll give up.
Good.
All right.
I've promised to not say anything derogatory until the first time there's an opportunity.
Okay. Okay. All right, I'm gonna go. So just give us some background. This is the
So the city passed a downtown mobility plan a few years ago. It did not have necessarily attached funding, so kind of the timeline and when they would actually build all these bike lanes.
And these are protected bike lanes. We don't have very many of those in San Diego. Maybe one or two.
There's like literally one or two, and they're oddly placed, and they're not part of a network. This is a coherent system that would allow you to move all around downtown on protected bike lanes. Protected meaning there's a physical separation between you and the cars that could maim and kill you. And the city has actually already started construction over on J Street. They have their own signals.
Are they going to do like protected with like curbs, or are they going to do protected with those stupid floppy things?
Well, my understanding was that they were once going to do the stupid floppy bollards. Plastic bollards, yes. They were going to do yes. They were going to do plastic. They were going to do plastic bollards. Then there was a slight delay because they were going to switch to curbs. That was deemed to be expensive and timely. They're back to bollards. However, they're going to put a lane of parking on the other side of the bollards, so it won't just be the bollards between you and moving traffic. It'll be a line of parked cars, then the bollards, then your bike lane.
Okay. You seem really biased toward not dying on your bike.
Yeah, that's a genuine bias I have, is that like I don't want to die before I can get home to see my kids.
Have you thought about being more objective about dying?
The two sides to dying on my bike? Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair to say that like I put my thumb on the side of this on the scale towards the side of
it's
of not
fair.
dying.
That's fair.
Yeah.
All right. My resolution, I'm going to take this one. I resolved. So I interpreted it as resolutions that I wanted the city to adopt or the region to adopt, but it's fine either way. So in this one, I said the mayor and the supporters of this new hotel room tax that he wants a special election for may not get, that will at some point, I guess, go to the ballot in 2020 maybe. They should decide exactly where the homeless funding is going to go for that. They should make a plan, somehow make it concrete, either package it as some sort of investment in housing or make it clear exactly what it would deliver. It's so weird to have this tax increase that is supported by a Republican mayor, and yet they're trying to argue that they shouldn't have to decide where the money is going to go, and that we should just give it to the government to figure out over time. And I think that has actually caused more angst on the left than it has on the right, which again is weird. But and so I think they should make that clear, package it maybe as a bond that they could use to actually invest in housing, or otherwise let people know where it's going to go to try to win over some of these skeptics for how this money is going to be spent.
Yeah, and the specifics matter, right? Because just like the amorphous blob of like, we're going to spend money on homelessness sounds awesome. But if you find out, well, all the money is going to go to keep these tents open, then maybe that might change a few people's minds who don't think that should be the priority. Yeah,
exactly. There's obviously a big divide, a difference. Try to get you've already put this big coalition together to try to make this happen. You're going to need every vote possible. You can't have anybody voting or campaigning against it. So put together the package of exactly where the money's going to go, and make it clear. And also the same for roads. But that money is, again, it's a hotel room tax that would fund the convention center expansion and homeless services. The homeless services is supposed to be the thing that a lot of progressives are excited about, but they haven't outlined where it's going to go, and there's a big divide about where that money should be spent. So try to get everybody on the board on that. You're going to need every vote possible. And also related, consider a different architectural arrangement of the convention center expansion, so you don't have to keep fighting this this group that with the land and all that on the bayfront. So just something to consider. All right, Julia, your resolution.
All right. I have to say I felt tremendous pressure.
Okay.
Good.
You wear it well.
To come in here with resolutions for the city.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, can I say that I want more like day drinking places?
Absolutely.
Anything.
That's not, I'm going to cheat, kind of like Scott just did, where he gave two
he did
answers.
That's true.
No, that was the same package.
Well, it's
Sure.
It's
sure.
true. Yeah.
Why'd you call me out, Julia?
We agree it's two.
I really would like to see some sort of guidebook for the Coast to Crest Trail. It's a huge network of incomplete trails. Who knows when it'll be finished, but it's been worked on since the 80s, I believe. So it goes from...
Are there biking or they're
it's hiking.
Hiking trails? Okay.
There's probably a little biking
Mm-hmm.
as well, like in the places around Del Mar.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure, but it is incomplete. There's a large section in like Ramona and Santa Isabel that doesn't connect through. And I would love to see a guidebook that can teach you either how to through hike or do it piece by piece or drive in between. I think that'd be really great.
It's awesome. You should do that.
Yeah, free idea or...
Yeah, that's something.
Yeah.
But it'd be cool
Transition
as
to
like a little
guidebook
zine
writing?
even.
You might
That
be
would
able
be
to
an
make
awesome zine.
$2,000 doing that.
That's right.
Sorry, that was an author joke. No, I think it's a great idea. Let's and have you hiked much of it?
I've hiked some, and they're just opening a new section at the end of this month, which is like now. Maybe it will happen.
How much of the way would you be able to get to that through just a foot in a field in San Diego County?
That would be difficult because it's not. I don't know if in their new version that they marked out this is on the a foot in a field trail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your favorite hike in San Diego?
Oh my God. I think the Laguna Meadows Trail. You have to go over some hilly section to get in there, but once you're in the meadow, it's like magic.
Hey, Nate John here, producer for the show. I just wanted to take a quick second to highlight a few things going on here at Voice. As Scott mentioned in the beginning of the episode, we're at the very tail end of our fundraising campaign here at Voice. Right now, we have just about $25,000 left to raise, which is really good. We've made a lot of progress this month, and now we just need you. So if you like what we do here, if you appreciate our reporting and this show, please consider making a donation. You can head to our website, voiceofsandiego.org, and click the donate button. Any amount really does help. Also, there's a really cool project we're working on that you may already know about. It's called the People's Reporter. Right now, we're at the part of the process where we are polling questions. We've gotten a lot of really good questions from people recently, so we pooled them and we want to know which is most important to you. So you can check out the finalist questions and choose your favorite at voiceofsandiego.org/peoplesreporter. I will also throw a link in the show notes in case you forget. Okay, back to the show.
All right, we're up. Our resolutions continue. The dial has turned to Sarah Libby. What's your first resolution?
All right. My resolution for the city is to consider that the solution to our various problems is not always a building.
What?
So whether you're the school district, which now has an extra bajillion dollars to build buildings to solve all of our education problems, or the county of San Diego, which enjoys a good building.
Loves
Let
the
me tell
buildings.
you.
Have you ever
Or
seen their credit rating? Boy, did they
That's
get to
true.
borrow
Or the
at
medical-
low interest rates to build more buildings.
The new medical examiners building.
Yeah.
There
They're
you
really
go.
stoked on that. The Borrego Library. Lots of buildings.
Borrego
If
Library.
you're-
Again, check out the interest rates on those capital projects. Low,
Fantastic,
baby.
very low.
Low.
If you're the mayor looking to solve homelessness and say, hey, this skydiving facility sure is cool.
Nice building.
It's a great building.
It's really pretty.
It's a very weird building.
Yeah.
It's just, I think the city should adopt like a flow chart where it's like, is there a problem?
Oh my God, let's do that.
Yes or
Oh,
no?
wow. Yeah.
Is there a building?
Should you build a building?
Should we build a building?
Now we
Yes,
have to do
no.
that.
Yes, no.
We can get somebody to design that. Do the.
There you
the
go.
list. Oh my God, that's genius. Yes. Actually, I've heard this described as an edifice complex. But yes, I don't remember who did that. Like it's a reader, like Bowder or somebody did that. But Mel Shapiro, R.I.P., he used to call it that too, the edifice complex. But yes, there's no problem that a building can't solve. Remember San Diego Unified? One of the schools most troubled in San Diego Unified's district is the Memorial Prep.
Yes.
Memorial Prep was a struggling school, became a charter school, then that was struggling, then it became a district-run charter, and then that was struggling, then it became a district-run magnet school, and that's now struggling, and it was one of the schools that was most avoided in Greater Logan Heights of all schools by parents who were scared of sending their kids there. And the district's answer was to rebuild it.
Yeah, full site modernization plan, as they say.
And buildings don't necessarily fix things, as we saw with Lincoln High School. So
Yeah, I'll never forget when we had our event where we sat down with Shirley Weber and you asked her about the plan to rebuild Memorial Prep. You know, she said if buildings were the answer, we would have, found that key and unlocked the door. But kids will come to wherever there's a great school, whether it's in a new building or an old building. And so that's the real challenge, is making schools great, not really like building them.
Julia, how many kids do you have?
I have 2.
How old are they?
They're 9 and 11.
And are they thriving?
They're thriving. They're doing great. Their school is doing a building.
Really? Which
Yep.
one?
There you go.
San Diego Cooperative Charter
Oh, right.
in Linda Vista.
That's the one that Richard Barrera used to be the trustee of.
It's like shares a campus with another.
No, that's the second site of our school.
Oh, okay.
Shares a site in Mountain View.
Yes.
So
Yes.
we're at the one in Linda Vista, and they've had this new building plan in the works for a long time. It supposedly was going to happen this fall,
Yeah.
and it hasn't started yet. So that's the thing. Like,
Now,
yeah,
there's
buildings
a-
are always the answer, and then the building is always like one more season.
Yes.
out.
Yeah. Now, there's legit problems that need to be addressed. There's some buildings
Of
that
course.
Yeah, there should
Pretty
be an
There are
option for yes
occasions
on the
in
flow
which
chart.
Yeah.
buildings
Does-
are the answer.
does your building
such
have-
as if your building is falling apart.
Yeah.
Here's the one building that they never actually talk about replacing that desperately needs to be replaced, which is City Hall.
Yeah.
Of all the places that we need to build new buildings, there's one.
I actually considered a resolution that was, let's finally deal with that plot of land.
Boy, that is a piece of shit.
It's not a
It's
good building.
garbage.
It's not a good
Yeah,
building.
I really hate it. Shit.
I mean, is it falling apart?
Yeah,
Okay,
Yes.
I'm on the flow chart.
You know what's funny is
Visualizing it.
that's
The-
true.
Yeah.
That's the first part. Is it falling apart?
the San Diego Unified School District headquarters as well.
Yeah.
There's
Right.
we should have like a tournament of the worst government headquarter buildings, because
Do you know who has the
those
best?
who
County.
Well, Natch. They love building
no,
a
it's
good building.
true.
Yeah.
You know what else is good? The Chula Vista City Hall.
Yeah. You know what I like? I'm a National City Hall guy.
Oh, I've
So
actually.
Oh, right on the
dense urban-
park.
Yeah,
right,
right
Just
on the
like
park.
that.
Exactly. It's beautiful. Yes.
What's your favorite government building?
I can't.
You got none?
Got nothing.
Oh, actually, I take it back. Anybody seen Del Mar City Hall? That new project?
Yes.
Boy,
Yes.
it really sends a signal that they have money in Del Mar.
All right, Andy, your next resolution.
All right, resolution. This is more in line with the city improvements. This is the year we actually embrace real BRT. Bus rapid transit is the idea that you could approximate a rail-like transit trip through a bus, as long as you give it a dedicated bus lane, give it elevated boarding areas, ticket stations at each station.
Yeah, you don't need like the tracks and all that. If you just like rubber tires work as well as tracks if it's dedicated.
As long as it's dedicated. We have built a number of BRT lines that we call BRT, but they almost across the board do not actually have any dedicated right-of-way.
That's the rapid?
The rapid, yes, exactly.
Now,
So, for instance, the Mid-City BRT, the rapid 215 line, it does have one section of dedicated right-of-way on Park Boulevard. You might be familiar with that, going from University Heights into Hillcrest. But it should be like that the entirety of that line. And so MTS is in the process of talking about its ballot measure that would go on the 2020 ballot. I'm here to say, if we're going to do something like that, let's at least pretend to try real BRT. Because right now, I think there's a suggestion that maybe we should just abandon the BRT concept. That's because we haven't even tried it yet, really, because none of these are actually BRT lines.
now it's not just the dedicated lane that's important. It's also the fact that it's like just only a few stops,
yeah,
right? It's like,
yeah,
because a bus you can stop every couple blocks.
yes,
But this is like you stop here, you stop here, you stop here. That's it.
yep.
So it's more predictable. It's faster.
more predictable, faster, which allows you to run better headways. Yes.
So your resolution, put simply, is if you're going to do BRT, let's do it really well. Let's give it a shot.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Interesting. All right. Is my turn?
Mm-hmm.
It is.
Okay. So my resolution for the region is that we should finally close a street this year.
You love this.
I'm hot for this. Yes.
Yeah.
So the Port of San Diego is right now asking for your guidance on priorities for the placement of future amenities on the Embarcadero, and also just what the future of the port should be like. It's the integrated planning, which of course, another awesome tagline for a regional project. Integrated planning. They are holding a survey. If you could go to portofsandiego.org/integrated-planning, or just go to portofsandiego.org and you can find
Rolls
it.
right off the tongue.
does.
Stop it. Go with me here. I want our legions of podcast fans to log on right now and advocate for the closure of Harbor Drive from Fifth Avenue up to Grape Street. Just say it. Just close the whole thing. It would be a promenade that we would love for our history. We would wonder forever how we could have ever had it be the gross wall of cars that it is now between us and our beautiful waterfront. We would have parties and protests, and it would be a wonderful gathering spot. And there's parks on either end. It would be wonderful. And yet it's just still this dumb road.
I think it's great.
It's really hard to get from downtown to the waterfront. It shouldn't be.
What I always say is, like, if you walk along the Embarcadero, there's no question that it is a public right-of-way. There's no question that they've built green space along it. And yet somehow the sum of the parts just doesn't feel like a public right-of-way. Like every time I'm there, I feel like I'm like kind of sneaking into a hotel that I'm not supposed to be in or something. It's
Right.
like an amenity for all those
Exactly.
hotels. It's not for me.
That's what they wanted.
Exactly.
Maybe.
Yeah.
It's
I don't, but like, and when I've talked to people at the port about this, they're like, well, what do you want? Like, it's a big walkway. You're totally free to go there. There's green stuff next to it. There's docks to walk out on, which is all true, but somehow it doesn't feel like I'm supposed to be there.
and that's I would argue because of Harbor Drive. Harbor Drive acts like a moat around the downtown, and it's not comfortable. There's a few spots to cross, but it's not comfortable. I don't see it as a major artery like for the city. You need to get at Grape Street. You need to start handling the airport traffic, and I know the hotels need some access. We'd have to figure out some access for the deliveries and stuff like that. But
Could come by boat.
it's something. But check it out. Again, the port is in the final stages of its master plan, the future of the port. You have a chance to weigh in on this. The port doesn't necessarily own that right-of-way of Harbor Drive, but it combined with these other agencies could work on that. Close Harbor Drive, #Close Harbor Drive. Let's do this. Go take the survey at portofsandiego.org/integrated-planning.
Is that one of their like clear options? Scott Lewis plan? Like,
No,
there's
put
just
it in
a
there.
note
Just-
thing they can
It's a
check.
write-in candidate.
Use the
So they have
comment.
to remember exactly what you said.
What you said, and the URL,
Close,
which
just-
is already a
And the whole
burden.
speech. You need to type out the whole
Yeah.
speech.
Do you want me to do
Include
the URL again?
protests too. Yeah.
I think we got the URL.
Maybe don't mention the protests you want to
We'll
have.
be able to have protests every once in a
great.
while. It's like that old college Marxist just sneaks his way out.
You need public spaces.
It would
are
be a
good.
great way to seize the means of production.
All right, Julia, your second resolution.
Okay. I had sort of planned on saying something about traffic, but it's intimidating being around a bunch of people with opinions about traffic.
You can
Don't
talk,
do it.
talk traffic.
Come
Let's
on,
go.
It's like amateur hour on traffic. You ready?
Yeah,
Okay.
let's go for it.
Well, I recently got a new job, which means after about 12 years of working from home, I'm now like in a car with everybody else.
You joined us.
Yes, I did. And so I suddenly have feelings and opinions again about traffic. And I keep thinking that I want when I'm sitting like turning onto Balboa to get on the freeway at night, I'm sitting there thinking, why is this not a green arrow? And I know that like the 100 cars are also thinking, why is this not a green arrow? And so I want this thing that's like an app where there's specific language on these complaints, like put a green arrow here, or have a dedicated turn lane, or put in a stoplight. And so this app can collect all of this data, and if it gets past a certain point, and because it will be the specific language, you don't get a bunch of people complaining. But once it gets past a certain point, then like the city or Sandag can maybe do their own investigation.
Oh, this is great. So this is kind of like the Obama administration started that thing where you had a petition, right? And if you got a certain number of people to sign up, no matter what the petition was, the government had to issue a formal response to it, right? There was that famous one where they got enough signatures for people to build the Death Star. And the government did literally respond about how much money that would be and all that stuff. But what you're saying is that you create an app where it's not just the get it done, like there's a pothole or graffiti or whatever, but you can submit ideas like this, and then people could like vote on them up to a point,
right.
And then the city has to deal with it as an option.
It's more just like if there is enough of a quantity of people all complaining about the same exact thing, then they can look into it.
You are
I don't know.
full of really
a lot of
good
free ideas.
But what I think that it would mostly accomplish is like alleviating that sense of futility that people sitting in their cars have. At least they feel like they're doing something. I don't know.
That's interesting. That's probably the fact that they're like encased in a steel cage.
That's right.
And they have no other option.
Ride public transit.
Right.
There isn't any.
Yeah,
those
should be options as well.
Those would be
That
great
can be
options. I would
that
click
you could say,
on
like,
until my
build the
fingers
light rail
bled.
lines.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
Here's a good spot for a dedicated bike lane.
Yeah, or BRT.
BRT.
That's the hard part about the public transit discussion, right, Andy? Is that it's not good enough for people to operate as professionals in a region to like get to meetings and stuff like that. It's just not an option. And so people are like, well, how could you expect me to use that because it's not an option? And then the other argument is, well, we want to make it an option. It's like yes, we understand that, but you can't say that that's the reason not to do it. Is we've got to make it something that you could literally consider using, but we have to also acknowledge that you can't. And then MTS gets all mad, and they're like, well, we're a well-operated entity. Nobody's saying you're not well-operated. It's just the way you operate doesn't make it optional for all these folks. Is that fair?
Not even close.
Is that a fair take?
Yeah, I mean, it's a system right now for people who have no other options, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And they do efficiently operate that system for riders of last resort, basically.
All right. Andy bringing in the darkness. Sarah.
So my resolution is for our friends in Sacramento, and that is to clarify this email situation that we've been dealing with. So we recently settled a portion of a lawsuit with San Diego Unified, in which they agreed to retain emails for 2 years that are subject to Public Records Act requests and things like that the public should have access to. The settlement only lasts for 5 years, so after that they could go back to whatever policy they want of deleting them more quickly than that. So that gives not just a year, not just a New Year's resolution, but a 5-year resolution for lawmakers to sort of grapple with how better to deal with the emails of public agencies and how long they should be forced to retain them.
Right. It's not just a San Diego Unified issue.
Right.
Every local government agency around the state right now is basically freelancing how long they should keep their emails. The city of San Diego is great, keeps it all long term. It dealt with its own controversy about that. County San Diego, not great, gets rid of them quick. A bunch of other school districts get rid of them really quick.
Yeah, other local government agencies across the county.
This hurts transparency.
It's very inconsistent. And, just I'm going to put my thumb on the scale for like the public should have access to records about how its government operates. And I'm sorry if it's hard to deal with. I don't think that's a good excuse.
Exactly. So yes, you I know we have a bunch of dedicated insiders in Sacramento who listen to this podcast.
So many.
Put it on your agenda. Get your boss to talk to. Sarah and I are going to go to Sacramento in the early part of the year, and we'll be we'll go around. We'd love to talk to you about this and other things. I think probably
You guys are lobbying. You're going on a lobbying trip.
Well, we're going to spread the message about this podcast and about our service, and also talk to people and get story ideas. But we'd be happy to talk to you about this dilemma as well.
Make sure you register as lobbyists.
That's true. Shit. I'll pay somebody else.
That's what lobbyists do.
All right. Well, that was our resolutions. Do you guys have any personal ones you guys are going to wrestle with?
No. But I did. Everyone says no one ever makes good on resolution. I did 15 years ago. I used to just never wear a seatbelt. It just wasn't something I ever did. And I made a resolution to start wearing a seatbelt, and then I always wear a seatbelt since then. So
I didn't know there were people of our generation who didn't wear seatbelts.
yeah, I just didn't. I don't know. But this was a long time ago.
Seems right.
Yeah, it seems like something he would
Good
just
job.
do. Yeah.
Yeah, but I changed it.
Good.
Yeah. So now I do.
Yeah.
I wear one.
A couple of years ago, my husband made a resolution to drink more whiskey, and it kind of blew my mind that there could be a resolution that was awesome, and it was something you wanted to do.
Yeah.
It's not
and
supposed to be some prudish I have to do less
right.
fun.
And we even took a trip to Japan so that he could get dope Japanese whiskey. And so I don't have a specific resolution in mind, but it's broadened the way I think about those things of you can resolve to do really cool things that you want to do, and not just oh, I really gotta cut back on potato chips.
Maybe I should go to more Phish shows this year.
Yeah. Yeah. That's an interesting idea. So, I mean, things that are I don't know about whiskey, but things that are take more vacations, sleep more, stuff like that. Those are things you shouldn't feel bad about.
Exactly.
Wanting or whatever. Well, Julia, it's been awesome having you on. Her book is How to Set Yourself on Fire. Check that out. It's been great talking to you. And again, go to the Future of the Port.
Yeah, just
www.portofsandiego.org/integrated-planning, and let them know to close Harbor Drive. Let me ask you, Julia, do you actually start with characters and then see how it goes, or do you actually know how the plot's going to go before you start writing?
I am not a plot writer. I
Right.
start with characters or a vague sense of a circumstance, and then the plot kind of falls into place. That makes it sound like it's easy. It's the hardest thing ever.
Yeah.
But,
If you want, you can base a character on me. If you want.
Oh, that's
This
great.
is San Diego. So,
okay.
Thanks. This has been the Voice of San Diego on podcast. Have a happy new year. We wish you a safe and thriving and prosperous 2019. We love having you as part of this. Again, if you can please consider supporting Voice of San Diego, it's very important for us to finish the year very strong, and you can do that at voiceofsandiego.org. Thanks for listening. I'm Scott Lewis, CEO and Editor-in-Chief. I was here with Sarah Libby, Managing Editor. Andrew Keats is the Assistant Editor. This show is produced by Nate John and Adriana Heldies, and audio editing is by Adam Greenfield. If you like what we do, please consider giving at voiceofsandiego.org/donate. That okay?